Bless up for tuning in to Project Chaney. Magic happens when you question everything. Conspirituality becomes reality, weirdness is welcomed, and it's okay to change your mind. Big up yourself.
Big up yourself. Welcome back to another episode of Project Chaney. As always, I'm Chaney, and thank you guys for joining me. I have missed you, and it seems like the movie of the world is ever evolving, and we have to talk about some things. Where should we start? Should we start with Elon? Should we start with Ye? What should we talk about? We might as well talk about Yeezy first. So there was the whole controversy back when at the Yeezy fashion show that looked pretty apocalyptic in my opinion. And he and Candace Owens had shirts on that said White Lives Matter. I don't think there was quite the buzz that he thought this was going to make. Let me go with one philosophy in this whole story. I'm going to go with the philosophy that Yeezy's trying to get out of a contract with Adidas. So this doesn't quite make the kind of blip because everyone's like, you know, Kanye being Kanye. And a few weeks later, he comes out and he makes some remarks about Jewish people owning all the banks and owning all of Hollywood. And he gives a few interviews and he makes some really good points that nobody's talking about Margaret Sanger, about Planned Parenthood, about how, yeah, it's sad that 6 million Jews have died in the Holocaust, but 20 million black people have died in abortion clinics. And so he makes these points about this that nobody's talking about. And he's like, that's a genocide. And then the other hot topic of things that I think he said that seemed to ruffle the feathers of the mainstream media is he says George Floyd didn't die from a knee on his back. He died from fentanyl. And in proof of this, because Kanye is quote unquote wiling out, JP Morgan and Chase, or, you know, I think it was JP Morgan and Chase was where he had his banks. Maybe it was Wells Fargo or whatever. They canceled his bank account. Adidas canceled his contract. So people are like, oh, he wanted out of his contract anyway with Adidas because they were making knockoffs of his clothing. And he was like, hey, those are all my designs. And they were like, yeah, we own all your designs. And which it's kind of funny too, because Adidas is a German clothing company. And everyone gets all like Adidas is like, Kanye, don't bring that shit over here. Like, it's hashtag too close. And, you know, we look at designers like a Hugo Boss, and they used to design the Nazi uniforms. Look into like the car you're probably driving. They might have supported Nazis. The amount of people that are getting mad at Kanye West because of this idea of something in World War II, because he's bringing up concerns of things that maybe people don't know about, and we're not allowed to talk about. The idea that there is a group of people out there, out of all the questions we're allowed to talk, out of all the things we're still left to say, out of all the groups we can say those things about, it does seem like there's a very special word and a very special, like, if you talk, you can talk about a black person, you can talk about a Cuban person, you could talk about a white person, you could be racist. But if you talk about a Jewish person, you're anti-Semitic. It's quite interesting, even down to the World War II of it all, that, you know, 10 million Polish people died in World War II. You know, 30 million Russians died in World War II. 6 million Jews died in World War II. Some Americans died in World War II. Some Germans died in World War II. Some French died in World War II. Like, I don't know the exact numbers of the history they try to tell us, but it does seem like we only get told one thing. And, in my opinion, all of this, because I know there's people out there and they're like, Chaney, Elon Musk is a good guy. Chaney, Kanye's a good guy. Patriots in control. And I just don't think that way. I see the narrative of Elon Musk and Operation Paperclip, back to the Nazis. And I see the narrative of Kanye setting up the Jewish rhetoric again, because nobody else is saying it anywhere where they can actually put a blip enough on the radar where they're like, oh, look, people are all anti-Semitic. So they have Kanye put this on the radar because they're already bringing up in the newspapers every day. What are you starting to see? Hate crimes, hate crimes, hate crimes on who? So they bring up Kanye to put it on our radar again, put it in the quote unquote zeitgeist, into the pop culture. And then guess what we're going to see? We're probably going to see some false flags on a certain couple of religious buildings. That's just my guess because of the New World Order playbook. We'll see a couple of false flags, and then will we see something happen in the Middle East, something happen around Israel, where it's going to be that kind of like the amp up to the World War III rhetoric that they're trying to create for their end of times narrative, their apocalyptic narrative that doesn't seem to be going so well. So to me, the Kanye West thing of being anti-Semitic, of like, who are we going to get to say it? Who are we going to get to say this part? And even the Joe Rogan of it all, where here comes Joe again, where everybody has to retout Joe Rogan's narrative of, Kanye West is mentally insane. And he, we need to talk to him like a mentally insane person. And we need to just devalue every single thing that he said. Just devalue every single thing that he said. That's so Joe Rogan. That's exactly what it's there for. It's like the cheesecloth filter for your fucking brain before you start to think for yourself. Is there such thing as dangerous rhetoric? Could certain people incite violence? Is it just yelling a fire in a movie theater? The whole idea of free speech keeps coming up again and again and again. And I see dildos like, oh, hashtag free speech. And they keep in their own brain. You're seeing some people that consider themselves woke out there talk about the idea of free speech, and then the idea of that existing on some kind of private platform like Twitter. The idea that you fill out a whole contract of legalese and then you're going to tell me how you're going to sue Twitter or what you're going to do with your quote unquote free speech on a platform that isn't your platform. If I build, think of it in this really simple terms. If I take wood and I own a piece of property and I take that wood and I make it 3 feet off the ground and I put stairs to it, that's my platform. And if you come stand on that platform and try to talk on my property, I can kick you off of it, and I can control what you say on that platform, even if it's just wood in my yard. This is why they call it a platform. These are what these words mean. They want you to think your only platforms aren't the soapboxes you can go stand in your communities, in your neighborhoods, in your cities, and, grab your own microphone like I am now. It's not these soapboxes they want us to take. They want us to think our platform is this Twitter. And I feel like it's like short attention span theater. Do you guys remember the Ministry of Truth? Do you guys remember them pushing the Ministry of Truth? And how quickly it blipped in and blipped out? How quickly, but we need to keep you safe on the internet. And so now we have this Twitter with these blue check marks, with this freedom of speech, with a famous person like Kanye, with this dangerous rhetoric. Like, gosh, not only should some maybe quote unquote normal people like you out there have blue check marks, maybe some dangerous people like Kanye shouldn't have check marks. We need to make this, here's the word that they use to fool you guys, here's the big spell. We need to make this more democratic. We need to make this more democratic. Democracy. We need to put more democracy on this platform. So they show you this idea of what scary bad speech is in a really big way, so Elon can just clean it up and you're going to accept it, because now They've used the last how many decades showing you how being verified, having a blue check, there's no difference if you look at the symbolism of checks and of X's. And so a mark on you. Do you want the mark of the beast? Don't take the mark. Take it out of religion. Like, do you want this idea of being verified? By who do you need to be verified? So do you need it? Is it your Nexium burn? Do you need a Nexium burn on you to have your $8 verified check mark? So the same dude that's going to save us with this verified check mark, and they've used all the celebrities to make it cool over the last however, and now I get to have one too. And so we're going to pay our $8, and then would our $8 be attached to our PayPal, our Elon Musk PayPal? You mean the same guy who owns Twitter, owns the PayPal that's attached to my bank? So if Chaney _in_ Wonderland wants to type something that Elon Musk doesn't like, can he go into my bank account now and charge me $2,500 because I said the wrong thing? How long can Chaney afford to say the wrong thing before Chaney can't afford to say anything? I think it's really telling when they put the word free. When you see a box of free kittens, when you see a box of free, that means most of the time, everywhere else, free, here, come in, free food. Most of the time, everywhere else, it lets you know that other than that place, it costs money to have that thing. So I even think take the idea of free speech off. That's been going on for us maybe too long. Maybe us putting the word free in front of the word speech. Maybe it's just speech. Maybe the second we put free in front of it, we knew it was going to cost money one day. Maybe that's how they get us. They're like, look at all this free water. Look at all this free air. Look at all this free land. Look at all these free men. Look at this Morgan Freeman. And if it's free and if it costs money, and if we're headed to some sort of computerized communism, there's like a word here with communism and electronics and what they're doing to us, that these two words mesh together, and maybe by the end of the show I will come up with the exact word. But in this computerized communism, travel papers, being verified, free society, vaccine, wax on, wax off world, do you know, of course they're going to ration us. So you don't think they're going to ration your free speech by the character? And once they start rationing that, who could afford? Who's going to be able to afford to speak? The same people that were going to be allowed to afford to sit down in the restaurant and take their mask off? Not the workers. Not the people who are serving your food. Not the people who are running around. The rich elite that were allowed to sit down in the chair. And so there's certain groups and certain names and certain parts of this rhetoric when people are like, well, this is what they're going to do. The New World Order is coming. The New World Order is coming. Don't you guys see the high water mark has already been met? They tried. It failed. We are on the reversal of that. And you can fight it all you want. You can keep your heels in the sand. And you could make us drag your energy along. But we're only going in one direction right now. And it's in the opposite of all this crazy bullshit that they had us locked up in our own houses. If we were still locked up in our houses waiting for a wacky healing, like, oh, yay, Big Pharma, Fauci's going to heal us. If we were still sitting in our house waiting for that, probably the only way we could communicate would be through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And then we'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't afford to have my account shadow banned. How will I be able to talk to anyone? I'm trapped in my cell. It's almost like if you ever watch prison shows that are done in these big prisons, and they talk through the pipes and they drop letters and stuff through the pipes, because all the pipes in the big prisons attach, so they can flush their toilet a certain amount of times, and it'll make a certain amount of water on a string flush until a bag will get to another prisoner's cell. And so they almost have like a mail pipeline through the prison system. That's what Twitter was going to be for us. because the prisoners can't leave their cells whenever they want. And only the prisoners that are good enough can go into the yard. Only the prisoners that have enough needles and boosters can go play in the yard and play basketball and work out on weights while they wait. Isn't that interesting? The amount of stuff that prisons can't afford, but damn, they can afford all the weights in the world. All the weights in the world. Oh, shit. So yes, I hope that Master Elon lets you have your ration of free speech for your $8. Don't you think it's funny too, the 8 symbolism of it all, with the metaverse symbol, with the Artemis going around the moon and the figure 8 symbol? It's like, oh my gosh. And all the symbolism will be their downfall. Can we talk about Elon Musk's Halloween costume? Y'all, if I don't care what your thoughts are on Jesus Christ, but what logically can you tell me makes sense for a guy like Elon Musk to wear a red outfit that has a ram on the front, a horned beast on the front, and then to layer it off with upside down crosses? Is he just trolling? Who's he trolling? What's the idea of trolling? And what's the symbology behind the upside down cross? Let's take off the ram for a minute. Let's just talk about the upside down cross. What is the symbology here? What is he trying to tell me? Is this funny to who? Is there any energy that's being pulled on this? Because I can find Jennifer Lawrence with upside down cross earrings. I can find tons with Madonna in upside down cross. I can find some Kardashians in upside down cross. This seems to be a cool thing, this upside down cross. What am I not hip to? And then if I'm like, is there a sigil magic behind the upside down cross? Is there some kind of sigil magic around the right side up cross? And what's the difference of the two? If I killed your savior and could get you to use the torture device around your neck, does that give me power or you power? If I can get you to wear a sigil or symbol of that device around your neck in gold or silver, does it give me power or you power? Okay, let's say it gives you power. Then what's the upside down cross mean? What's the inversion of that energy? What's the inversion of your Christ energy? If you're not a Christian, what's the inversion of Christ energy? If you are a Christian, what's the inversion of Christ energy? Either side you ask, the mocking and the calling upon the evil thing and putting it out to mock when you're the world's richest man with your Tesla and your Neuralink, and you're going to mock people on Twitter and say anything that's worth having is worth paying for. I'm sorry. Aren't you the motherfucker that's been touting off your free Neuralink to us for a few years? The only reason we're letting you shoot this space trash into our sky every other week, these 60 satellite strings every other week from Florida that you're shooting up, the only reason we're letting you do this, right, is because you told us you were going to give us free internet. Is that going to go along with our free speech, Elon? Are you going to save us with your upside down cross and your Baphomet bullhorns? If I get your mark, will I be able to use your service too? Maybe you should change that verified mark. I wonder if it'll be an upside down cross. How different is the upside down cross than the X? And how different is the X than the check mark? These are fun, easy symbols I think you guys should look into. I don't know, but I do. The Aries, the ram, I looked at the horns and I'm like, well, is it a tell? Is it different than a Baphomet head? Than the antelope, weird looking head that the Baphomet has in that normal statue that we see And I was trying to like, can I see the world's richest man as the savior of society? No, I cannot. No, I cannot. I can't philosophize this. And I don't understand it. And I don't understand the people that don't see how Kanye and Elon and SpaceX and Joe Rogan and narratives pushers and all your news media talking about it. Like, why do we realize that every single thing the news talks about is fake, except when it's this feel-good story to us? But, oh my gosh, the news is talking about Kanye. We don't think it's any different at all than the whole narrative that's set up for Kanye from the beginning. He is a Chicago person, right? What else do we know from Chicago? We got R. Kelly, right? Who else do we got? The Obamas, right? Who else do we got? Hillary Clinton's family, right? Y'all, do you not remember anything? How are you creating these stories and these narratives about people that you know their entire tale if you actually think about it? Some of you out there are like, oh, fuck, I forgot Elon owned PayPal. Yeah. He owns all these things and he's telling you about it on Joe Rogan. And when the real truth comes out on Joe Rogan, just like Alex Jones, because all the characters of this movie seem to do this thing. All the characters of this movie, they all like to smoke a joint before they're going to tell us a whole bunch of fucking truths. So an example would be Alex Jones on Joe Rogan. And he smokes a joint and he takes a bunch of shots. And then he says shit like, interdimensional space demons are trying to eat your babies. That's fucking true. That's probably the truest statement Alex Jones ever said in his whole fucking career. Elon Musk does this too. Takes a big hit of the fucking joint. And then he's like, yeah, the computers are going to fucking kill you. They're the most dangerous thing in the whole world. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever he says about the technology afterward. Oh, Elon, if you're right, who owns all this technology? Well, him now, but every single thing that Elon has produced has come from us. They've been inventions that came from us, from some science that we paid for as the American people somewhere. With probably a lot of scientists that we rescued from Nazi Germany back when. This is how old most of the technology probably is. And so a lot of it's probably our collective technology. And Elon gets to put it out under this corporation title. And my favorite part is he makes all his money from our government subsidies. Yeah. His wealth, the world's richest man, all of it is a fleecing of us. But it always is, and you guys know that. But maybe he's going to save the world. Maybe he is just AI created human here to save us and bring us back to Mars. Yeah. Okay. Elon, Kanye. Who else has been in the zeitgeist? Oh my gosh. You know what? Heidi Klum's Halloween costume. How could I not talk about Heidi Klum's Halloween costume? She said it was an earthworm. And Heidi Klum is known every year for doing outlandish, crazy Halloween costumes. But like the cover of Newsweek or one of these magazines, The Economist or something, they're like, look at all these symbols that they're trying to do with this. This is how I feel about Heidi Klum's costumes every year. She's always mocking, and she's such a tool of the elite. She is a Victoria's Secret model, and anyone that hung out with that agency long enough, they're an Epstein, Les Wexner alum. So yeah, they don't get very far. A lot of people that I think are these high-level models, they're almost supermodels in a way because they're super handlers. If there's a couple famous people that we have an illusion that we might be able to succeed to their level and they're in the room, we immediately feel safer in the room. If we're about to go on a yacht with human traffickers in the middle of nowhere and make $200,000 a piece for a week with a bunch of sheiks, we might feel more comfortable making that decision if Heidi Klum was the one talking us into it. And this is what I think they use these people like Heidi Klum, Rachel Chandler, Paris Hilton. These people are like Heidi Fleiss, the Hollywood madam, and there used to be a DC madam. Heidi Fleiss, they made look crazy. The DC madam they killed. And both of these people had black books with a bunch of Hollywood elite all wrapped through them. A bunch of political elite all wrapped through them. So I think people think of a madam and they think of a kitten house and they think of a level of finances they can afford. Like, I'm going to go into this brothel and I'm going to pick out a girl and I'm going to go have sex and then I'm going to leave. That's how people think of things. Well, that's with normal money. And rich people, elite rich people, billionaires, sheiks, kings, they don't need to deal with the same people you and I deal with if they have their perversities. So they have next level handlers, next level drug dealers, next level arms dealers, next level human traffickers that make their livings all over the world doing and showing this kind of stuff. And an recent example, on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, there is a new woman on there, and she has I don't remember her name offhand. I'm so horrible with that stuff. She has a coffee table book, and she's getting a lot of accusations right now that coffee table book is just a high-priced human trafficking catalog. I shouldn't say human trafficking. I should say call girl catalog. She was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, this woman as well. But I also believe anywhere that you can find a grown woman selling herself for sex, if somebody's making money off that, eventually the connections to those things get nefarious. So you could be a very normal person out there that's just turning on your YouPorn and you're clicking whatever your little sexual things are so you can find porn about it to watch. You could be putting all that stuff in. If you're supporting YouPorn, I just want you to know, or any of these free porn sites or any of this stuff, money is going to harm children. Eventually. That's what this kind of sex trade and dark web, and it's all just levels of, it's all just walking us in slowly to a thing that everything for them is, well, if the gays are allowed to get married, then drag queens will be reading to our kids. And look at us. And it's not because we're just kind of so silly in the idea that really probably nobody needed the government involved in their marriage. But they have us always fighting for the thing that is against our best interest. Really, the gays probably needed to stand with the straights and figure out, like, hey, you guys, if you need to get married in your church and for your kids, there's got to be a better way to do this than having the government and the IRS involved. Like, really, that's the conversation we probably should have had. Like, instead of arguing, we should tax the church, we should say, wait, we need to figure out how the church is not getting taxed and do that. That's kind of what I feel like the government, it's the same as the verified check mark. Yay, we're going to fight for a verified check mark. And we're not only going to fight for it, we're going to pay for it. Yay. We're going to fight for our gay marriage. We're not only going to fight for it, we're going to pay for it. And now we have the federal government and state government all involved in our licensing and all involved in our thing and in our marriage and in our divorce and in every contract we make from this point out. Thank you, IRS, for recognizing my union. It's such a weird thing. We go through all these weird little spells. I used to think this is off topic, kind of on topic, but I always just thought it was kind of a beautiful idea and an extra not beautiful world. But there's a term called jumping the broom. And in the South, if people were slaves, a slave couldn't own anything, and they couldn't even, there was no jewelry to be exchanged. A lot of them couldn't read. A lot of them couldn't have a book. There wasn't any vows to be read. So the only way, if we really loved each other, if we were slaves in our slave quarters on our farm or in our massa's house, I'm saying master because I'm going to bring that up again in a minute. If we were in our master's house, we wouldn't have been allowed to express to the energy above and to the people around us that loved us that we wanted to be bonded forever. So they would lay a broom on the floor and the couple would jump the broom together. And that would be how they, quote unquote, tied the knot. And I always just thought that, like, symbolism, so simple, even if it was just the two of you. Those words and that vow and the heartstrings attaching, it can happen by just jumping a broom without a priest or without a government or without a witness. It could just be the two of you. And I always thought that was kind of a really beautiful idea in a horrible time. You know, it's sad slaves didn't have anything and that obvious stuff. But I'm actually glad I said massa, because it reminds me, speaking of Kanye again, bring it all back around to that. Kanye getting out of his contracts with Adidas brings up all this. I made a post earlier about the artist formerly known as Kanye, because Prince is somebody that we know that he changed his name because the record labels not only owned those songs, not only owned his likeness, they owned his name. They owned his birth certificate, quote unquote, God-given name, Prince. So he had to change it to the symbol to be, I think the symbol's called the love symbol, which is interesting, to make it so they didn't own the music he was making at the time. They didn't contractually own anything the artist formerly known as Prince made. And I might be wrong, but I think during that time, he made the Diamonds and Pearls album. So it had like Get Off and Cream, and he might have done like Sexy Motherfucker a little afterward. He might have done a great song, which goes into so much symbolism. You know, we always talk about the boxes and the 777 of it all, but the song 7 by Prince, the all 7 and we'll watch them fall, stand in the way of love and we will smoke them all. Such a great song, such a weird anchor song for me. But also when people talk about what they kind of see when they envision this world, what it could be, if we had, which we know all this stuff is true, we had limitless amount of resources and a limitless amount of land and a limitless amount of love and a limitless amount of things. It's like, what would really happen? What would the switch look like once we realized all of this? And it's almost like the lyrics of that song kind of feel like that to me. But in the way of Prince being an artist, I believe a lot of musicians, now here's my wordplay that I like to use. A lot of musicians are muses. They make music. They have special connections to different etherical chords and creative things. They're like a painter with sound. And so these muses have their tune they came here with to inspire and amuse us. And they are supposed to have these songs. If there was an evil day, their job, they would love nothing more than to gather up the muses' energy and the muses' songs that they shared without lifetimes. And if they could gather that energy up, would it be called their master? Would I own your masters? If there was an idea of like a spirit guide, could I own your spirit guide? When musicians sign their soul away to the devil, we hear this all the time. For fame, I had to sign my soul away. So if this is all the case, what are these record companies really up to? Record companies, records. What other records do we have? Marriage licenses, birth certificates, death certificates, mortgages and insurance and records. Records. So these record labels own all these different artists' masters. And we hear about it all the time. I have friends that have actually been bought out they have had great music, and they got bought out by a big record label who took their music, owned them, owned their band name and the music. They just put out this amazing album and they shelved it. And then they couldn't tour with the music. They couldn't play the music anymore, and the record label wasn't going to release the music. So what if there's all these other amusings that they're holding from us? That they're ours collectively. Some of us that are superheroes with that thing, share it with us. Or if it was a tune that we would all attach to in the ether somewhere, are they taking books or records out of the Akashic and storing them somewhere? Are they giving our Akashic records a new master? Are they taking would the Akashic records be our collective masters? Are they trying to take this from us? And so in a big idea to link it all together again with somebody they couldn't do that to, somebody they didn't do that to, somebody that in less than a couple of months was about to walk away from Sony Music, muses, was about to walk away from Sony Music owning over half of their catalog. He was going to own over half their catalog, and instead, they murdered him. Who could be so smart? Who could be so smart that not only would they murder him, but maybe they could take his own musical catalog and make it worth cents on the dollar by calling him a pedophile? Maybe they would take this guy that somehow was attached to this thing, and maybe he was abused his whole life from a small child, and maybe he got enough money and he sat in the outskirts and made a couple of right connections and a couple of right friends and a couple of right... Why was Michael Jackson always surrounded by heavy military members? Why was Michael Jackson allowed to travel all these places and meet with generals? Was Michael Jackson really the pedophile they all say? Was that the one real piece of news the news was giving us? We don't hear anything about Steven Spielberg. We don't hear anything about Woody Allen. But Michael Jackson's the pedophile the news is telling us the real news about? I don't know. Let me see. Does my HBO documentary, because they're so honest with the Nexium cult and with the QAnon documentary. Oh, yep. HBO says that Michael Jackson is a pedophile. But the only two dudes that talked about him in that documentary are the two dudes that sat on the stand for him a few years before and said he wasn't a pedophile in front of the state of California, and he got off. So something doesn't make sense here. So was the only dude that the fake news media is calling a pedophile really a pedophile? Or was he really just trying to save fucking young kids from Hollywood? From the clutches of parents, stage parents, John Benet Ramsey type parents, selling their kid to the clutches of evil, selling their kid's soul to the clutches of the Hollywood. Yep, that is the same wood that magicians like to use to fugazi you. Fugazi, I don't know. So the word masters is definitely curious to me. And I think they put truth in plain sight everywhere. Everywhere. It makes me insane. Okay. I am going to bring it up because I'm looking through my post to see if there's anything from my Instagram. So if you don't already, you can follow me there at Project Chaney or at the second most shadow banned account on the internet. But I will let you know I am getting 10% of my interaction right now, and I'm being tagged for the first time in 2 years where people can put me in their stories. So you can find me at Chaney_in_Wonderland for all my shit posts or brilliant posts or random late night 3 a.m. inspirational posts that I'm like, oh my gosh, is this real? And then I wake up the next day and I'm like, that's crazy talk. But I leave it up because my whole page is kind of like a Delta diary spell journal for myself. And then I also think as above, so below, we're all attached kind of thing, law of observation, power of revelation. And yeah, I feel like we are all the algorithm. We are all the synchronicity. And so if you guys observe my synchronicities, you have to see the thing before it becomes the thing. And yeah, that's how the lady in the red dress works. You have to know about the lady in the red dress before you ever see the lady in the red dress. But once you see the lady in the red dress, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how many red dresses there were. I don't know. I do know, though, a crazy thing about how the long game works. An example of the long game that I would like to share with you right now, because I'm an old bitch in Scorpio. I'm not an old bitch. Why use these words? I'm headed out. I probably got 10 more years in my mother maiden chrome phase. So I'm probably got 10 more years of my mother phase before I will head into my solidified crone phase. But I am getting older. It is November. It is Scorpio. It is my season. It's about to be my birthday soon. I did buy myself a birthday present. I never do that, but I did. I'll tell you about it later. But I have a memory like a steel trap. I have a memory like an elephant. I remember everything. And so a long game example of how their shit works would be when I was a kid, we used to dress up in costumes and we used to run around our neighborhoods with like a pillowcase, and all of our neighbors some of them would have candy and some of them would have, coffee cakes or carameled apples or change, different money. Some people would put dollars inside like little plastic containers. Some people had little games like the magnet faces, where it was like the man's face and a bunch of magnet particles where you could drag it around with a pin. Silly putty, little magic tricks. It was actual tricks and treats. And a lot of the treats, if you were lucky enough to live around like good cooks, you got like wrapped up cookies or, different cupcakes with like a pumpkin on the top. And we had no fear because it was our neighbors, and our parents knew our neighbors, and because we played on the street with our neighbors' kids, and the other neighbors came out and they all knew each other, and they had barbecues together, and they trusted each other, and they were there for each other in hurricanes and in births and in deaths and at birthday parties and at Christmas parties, and everybody in the neighborhood just kind of knew everyone else. So we just went around to houses and we would knock on doors of neighbors, and most of them we knew, but some of them we didn't. And we would knock, and then we would say these words, and we would say, trick or treat, to another human. They would open their door and they would be like, oh, they would have a big thing of candy or a treat or a tray of apples, trick or treat. And they would be like, oh, they'd have the thing, they'd hand it to us. They'd tell us some great thing about our costume creativity. If they thought it was clever, if we made them laugh or scared them, they'd give us a little treat. Our parent would chat with them for a little bit, and then we would move on. And it was beautiful. And it was almost like the adults that humored the kids a little. The kids didn't know they were humoring the adults a little. There was this energetic exchange between everyone. And somewhere in my life, when I was like getting into like 4th and 5th grade, there had already been the stories. There had already been the old wives' tales. But it takes a little bit when there wasn't the internet for something to really grab on. But by the time like probably the 90s come around, the razor blade and the apple story has permeated culture. And you can't trust your neighbors. They might put their good, expensive drugs and mix it in to get your kids high. These are the real stories they were telling people. They might put drugs in the candy, and they might put a razor blade in an apple. Even in my little fucking dumbest kid brain, I remember looking around the apple thinking, what dildo, like I won't even eat an apple if it has a spot on it. What dildo wouldn't see a razor blade shoved into an apple? It was retarded to me even as a child. Even as a child, I was like, woo, adults aren't playing with a full deck. This is probably the way I am. So because of this little story, this little wives' tale that gets permeated into the culture that nobody has any idea where it came from and it's not real. Because of this story, kids have to start trick-or-treating in big, huge lit up places like malls right around corporate America with a food court. And the candy has to be wrapped. It can't be homemade. It can't be fruit. It has to be wrapped because you don't want somebody shoving poison or drugs into that thing. Thank goodness for Hershey and Mars. Mars. Isn't that a funny candy company? I wonder if Elon wants to go to the candy company. Isn't it fun that Mars always means sea? Anyway. But yeah. The long game of telling us in the zeitgeist once from an old wives' tale that there was a razor blade in an apple. And thinking it was harmless and what could ever come at it. And now fast forward to where we're at today, and there are 100% kids that have never trick-or-treated in a neighborhood with houses in their lives. They've only done it. It's a very normal thing where they go stand like a dildo. I'm sorry to call kids dildos that do this. I apologize to the parents. I should call the parents dildos. Your kid's perfectly fine. What are you doing walking your kid around the mall? What? You even took the stars out of your life, like the legitimate lumineers above our heads, the luminaries. You took the night out of your life. You're like, let's go into the lamb. Let's go where the lambs go. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. I mean the mall. You fucking sheep. Stop hanging out in the mall, you fucking sheep. Of course, the word mall backwards is lamb. It makes so much sense. It makes so much dollars and cents and cents. Okay. Do I have any other posts? Oh, I did see something cool that I do want to share in case you don't follow me on Instagram. I saw a cool idea that you can take metal duct tape and you can lay it, and you can lay it out on your mattress. And then you can take the metal duct tape and you can attach it with a wire line, a long wire line, and run it outside and stab it into the ground with a metal stake, and it will cause you to ground out on your mattress. You'll get the grounding effects. And people are saying it's like camping outside. It's like laying on the earth and getting to ground out for your whole sleep. And some people are suggesting that certain ailments that they have, like arthritis or like bubbly guts, like some kind of messed up gut issues. I'm sure there's a more technical term than bubbly guts. But people that have messed up gut issues, people that have different headaches, people that have weird dreams, they're saying that being able to ground out in their sleep is really helpful. So I have not done it yet, but I definitely thought it was an interesting idea, and I did want to share it with you guys and let me know. I don't know how I got so off fucking topic with the Heidi Klum thing. I know I started talking about it at one point, but I have no idea where I went. So I think they're being really obvious about parasites. I don't think she's an earthworm at all. I think she's the representative of a parasite. And I think these people are parasitic, and the things they try to put in us are parasitic. And I think the word that's so interesting with parasite is not see. So they've been spreading this word out to blend the idea of Nazis. But let's just separate that and write it in English. Notsee. Not sees. This makes sense to me. The computer can't see unless we see for it. It can't hear unless we hear for it. It can't taste unless we taste for it. It can't do any of these things. To me, something subterranean, something underground about their dumbs and their deep underground military bases feel like Nazis, like they need a periscope to come up out of the ground and look around so they can see because they're Nazis. So then it's like parasite. Huh. This is interesting. We have this word sight and see. in a lot of their stuff. We have a lot of this eyeball symbolism, this one-eyed symbolism. When you look at these celebrities from Kanye West to Elon Musk and everyone in between, when you look at a lot of these celebrities and their one-eye symbolism, they cover one eye maybe as so not to see. And if you have a parasite, do you have a one eye? Is that one eye symbolism again? Are they showing us this, Heidi Klum? I can't take it. I can't take it anymore, Heidi Klum. I don't even know what part I missed. I know I was talking about Epstein, and then where did the train of thought go to get me back here? So I'm glad I did remember. Parasite. The word hit me differently this week that I'm like, how did I not see it? One sight, one eye. That's what they're telling us with this creepy little creature. And isn't it so funny? So in our face. And it's like in their revelation of the method, and some people think energetically, they have to show us what they're doing and tell us about what they're doing so that they almost karmically don't have to pay for it because we had a chance to change it because they told us about it. But I don't know if I buy into that philosophy. Other people think, and this is kind of more of the one I believe in, they tell us about it because then when they do it, it's almost like a twice as funny. It's almost as twice as grotesque and twice as gross. I even think they mock us in such a way that George Bush saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on, I'll never get fooled again. I even think they mocked that quote. George Bush mocked that quote on purpose. That was the actual elite mocking us with how they fool us. They didn't even tell us the quote right. And I think the people that are these clowns, these bamboozles, these actors, these kind of like, they're next level high regards in the CIA or in the dark shadow government. If you're shamed like that in the public sphere and they're like, oh my gosh, all of America hates you right now. They love that. I think the evil, they would love that. They would feast on it. They feast on the opposite of what feels good to us. So I think they'd be like, ooh, everybody hates George Bush. He's so great, George Bush Jr. Oh my gosh. I wonder who else hates George Bush Jr. If only we could take this thread of Chaney's weird mind and link it all together with a thing called memory. Oh my gosh. George Bush hates black people. Where have I heard that before? Who stood up and told us that George Bush hated black people? Huh. Was that Kanye? Was that right before they genetically modified the weather to run into a black city? A democratically run black city that was really awfully badly run, and they could wreck all the poor and middle income families out of their house and ruin their property value so then they could come in and buy it at next to nothing. And then we could set up a narrative that our government is super racist and that not just George Bush hates black people, but all politicians hate black people. Look how white all the politicians are. Oh my gosh, if only we had a hope. If only we had a big black hope to save us from our racism. Could Kanye's George Bush hates black people be the tea that then Oprah put a big ball on so that Obama could hit it out of the park, and then we could feel like we're not like George Bush. We're like the Dixie Chicks. We would break. If I'm embarrassed that George Bush is from the same place I'm from. Let's please stop pretending the Dixie Chicks aren't from the same shadow government that George Bush is from. It all just seems like one big story, and it all seems to attach to me, and it all seems like an easy narrative. And I'm like, come on, movie. You want to keep heating up? Let's do it. Let's go crazy. Speaking of crazy, how could I not talk to you guys about Paul Pelosi? Oh my gosh. Were you guys sick for the last few years? After you're sick, you know what comes next. We got to hammer you. We got to Armin hammer you, and we got to Paul Pelosi hammer you, and we got to put a bunch of hammer on your timeline, because you know what our symbolism is for communism that we love? We love sick sickles and hammers. Sickles and hammers. Sick L's, sick Elons, and hammers. Ham. Who doesn't eat ham again? Kanye, be quiet. Okay, so Paul Pelosi on the timeline because he gets attacked by a crazy conspiracy Anon 17 follower that happens to be from Canada inside his house. Said attacker was in his underwear. Both parties had hammers. The guy did not start swinging said hammer until the cops pulled up. Some are suggesting that this gentleman was also in the car with Paul Pelosi on the night of his DUI arrest. I think it's interesting the business dealings that Paul Pelosi has with one said government that would be known as a communist government, that the flag, if you took off a sickle and hammer and laid on a very suggested star pattern, it would be called China. So Paul Pelosi has all these business deals with China and all this weird government investment firm and all this stuff. He's totally one of them. You have Nancy in San Francisco, who's such an obvious beard, her refrigerator full of ice cream and her weird shops that she has. I think Nancy Pelosi, they either own a pizza parlor or an ice cream shop. And both those things I would suggest if you own not everyone obviously who owns pizza parlors and ice cream shops, but if you own a pizza parlor or an ice cream shop, you can get food and items shipped from certain countries that in bulk that other people aren't allowed to open because they will ruin the quality of your food. You also have walk-in coolers and sometimes attachments to railroad lines and things like that. So these are perfect disguises for human trafficking for elite. And I don't care if Nancy Pelosi, come at me, bruh. I don't even believe you're real. I actually think you're under indictment right now. And I think that's probably what happened to your husband too. I think they have to keep coming up with these crazy stories to cover. Where did Paul Pelosi go? Where's Paul Pelosi at? Oh, he's in the hospital because he got hit in the head with a hammer. Oh, is this so we can't talk to him for a while? Seems like a lot's been going on with Paul Pelosi over the last few months. A DUI arrest, and now this random hammer attack where some guy from Canada in his underwear was coming and screaming, "Where's Nancy?" Okay. He didn't have a gun or a pipe bomb or he had a hammer. My gosh. I sure hope the Ministry of Truth and Elon figured this one out too. This would be another story that we could put on right with the Kanye thing. These dangerous people can't be allowed on Twitter. How are we going to verify? They might not even be American. They might not even be a white guy American. Not the obvious dangers that we've been telling you about. They might not even have an American flag or call themselves a patriot. What if they're a black Kanye talking about anti-Semitism? Or what if they're a Canadian that wants to beat up Nancy Pelosi with a hammer? I hope Elon can save us from this. I sure hope the Ministry of Truth will recognize how silly we all are. My gosh. Yeah, these are the stories that they're giving us this week. I am, before I get off with you, going to look through my own notes real quick. Ooh, I'm glad I did. I text myself notes sometimes now, and I usually do this in the middle of the night when I'm either half asleep or when I wake up out of my sleep, like a thought comes to me, or like I'll be in the shower and I'll just grab my phone and voice record it. So there are a bunch of random weird philosophies that are not full thoughts yet, but I'm in a safe place. I love you guys. Most of you love me. Even though I will tell you, it is shocking to me how many people I trigger that will write me long things. They seem like they don't like me, but they listen to every one of my episodes and have to debate me with everything that I say. And I think it's just crazy how long people hang out with me that don't like me. But I also realize my audience is about 70% female. And the ladies on the internet are really sweet overall. I mean, there's a couple of cunts out there, but overall they're nice. Men, I have a lot of great men friends. But if men recently find me, they always start like, I always get the rhetoric that I'm like a man hater, or that they assume I have this like feminist view on the world when they see me in other places. And then they always come here and we have a long drawn out like relationship of writing back and forth, and usually we become friends. But I find it interesting how I believe and I think this is going to be triggering when I say it. I believe my divine masculine triggers toxic masculine in men. That's probably triggering for me to say, because some men out there still can't get down with the fact that you have divine masculine and divine feminine in you. And that's kind of what we're all working toward over the outward expression of the Baphomet. We're trying to work toward an inward expression. Anyways, that's too many ideas in this thing. Let me go back to this. So I'm sorry if you are here and I do trigger you. Please do reach out. I don't mind. Anyone out there can tell you, I don't mind a debate. I don't mind your philosophy. I want to understand your philosophy more if I don't already. I don't mind. I have the time and the space, and meet me in a chat room. Find my Telegram channel. Come watch the spiders one Saturday night. Come listen to me and my Maria yuck it up on her station on YouTube or on Instagram. So, there's places to find me. I'm not an asshole. I'm pretty open-minded. But if you come at me twisted, you're going to get my Scorpion. I'm not love and light. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. Like, if you come at me twisted, you probably are going to get the reflection back of what you give me. I also will tell you this. I don't block people. You can look at me every single day. I don't care. You can say shit to me every day. Eventually I'll stop responding, and then eventually I'll just move on. But yeah, I have certain women actually that come to my page on every single post and just write reported. So, I guess if you're there enough, regardless of what the reason, or here enough, I am appreciative, because you make, my algorithm that much higher. So maybe somebody who actually will enjoy me will find me. So my real audience that is here all the time didn't need all of that. But sometimes off air, I deal with some shit, and everybody just thinks I'm going through life being the world's happiest lesbian. It isn't that way, you guys. It isn't that way, okay? It's not that it's not that way. Sometimes I am, in fact, the world's happiest lesbian. Okay, so let's run through my philosophies off my phone before I get out of here. And they aren't full thoughts yet, so take them with a grain of salt, which is such a great saying. Protect yourself when you take any information, and take all information with a grain of salt. Grain of salt. Salt is a protecting thing when it comes to magic. So I love this saying. And I don't even know if that's where the saying came from. It was probably like, hey, add your own flavor to this because it's going to be boring. But that's not why I'm saying it, because I might be a lot of things, but boring isn't fucking one of them. So if your phone in your hand, you can no longer remember numbers because of the phone in your hand. You no longer remember moments the same because of the picture, the camera that you're always carrying around. This technology is making us slowly learned helpless toward ways that our brains used to work, and maybe even rewiring our brain to work different than it once did. And I hear a lot of people, because like I'm a contrarian, obviously, this is where this thought even comes up, is we need to get off our phones and crack books more. We need to open more books. We need to read more books. What's the difference of books and your phone? Is it just the energy? Or could they all be a form of learned helplessness? The second you own the book and you stick it on your shelf and you know the information's going to be there forever. I watch people do this all the time. They can't recall the information in their brain the same way. They know where their book is on the shelf. They know where to find the information if they want it, but they don't have a recall mechanism in their brain because they know the book's there. The same way our phone tells us directions. It'll take me 10 times of driving to a place because I know the phone's going to tell me how to get there every time, that I don't remember it on the first time like I used to. And so I wonder, I've always been kind of a person that I give a lot of my books out. after I read the information and retain it. And I rarely get my books back. But my father always taught me every single thing you give out, you have to just let it go already. And if it comes back to you, you're blessed. And in the same regards, every single thing that anyone ever gives you, you always repay that. You always give it back 100% of the time. And it's just this easy little rule I've lived on, but it's really helped me keep a lot of my friendships where finances and things like this are concerned, because energetically, I don't want to lose a friend over money. And I hate when people borrow money from you and then they don't contact you anymore because they have some guilt. And I'm like, oh, I would have repaid your debt if you would still be my friend. I'd repay your debt to me. So I just consider it a cheap lesson to never loan you money anymore, but please don't not be my friend anymore. But are these ideas of books? Like, I've always given out my books. So in a weird way, I feel like sometimes when I'm recalling information on my brain, I shut my eyes and I can almost read the pages or see the pictures or go through the filing cabinet until I find the right color and pull it out and absorb the information. I wonder if it's because I don't retain my books. I don't have any idea that the phone's going to remember my mom's phone number. The phone's going to remember my sisters and all my friends, so I never learn any of your guys' phone numbers anymore. I always learned all my books because I never was going to keep them. So does everything in our life give us some idea of learned helplessness? Just a philosophy. I know it's a hard one because I do know everybody loves books. And book backward is cube. And I think that's interesting because like a Latin translation of cube would be needle. And I'm always obsessed with needle symbolism because, it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. But if you look at the symbolism for the eye of a needle, it is one letter of the alphabet, which is the 17th letter of the alphabet. And if you haven't heard me talk about that, hit me up somewhere and tell me, and we'll talk about it. I know I have on this podcast, but if you don't remember me talking about it, if anyone out there doesn't remember me talking about eye of a needle and Q symbology, hit me up and I'll do it on another episode. I just don't want to be redundant if I've already said it. Okay. Another idea. Is the internet fooling you every day by convincing you that computer images are actually people, or that computer images are actually real? I was hearing Paranoid American speak, and he was stating that the CAPTCHA idea, I always just thought the CAPTCHA idea was us teaching the computer how to see. Us teaching the computer what a fire hydrant was, what a bridge was, what a crosswalk was, what a street post was. I just thought when it asked us the questions, we were teaching it how to see. Sometimes the images were a little blurry. Sometimes there was just a corner of a street post. Does it want me to mark that one? Does it know that's really a street post, or does it want me to know that's a street post? But Paranoid American said, and if you don't follow Paranoid American, you totally should. He has the best merch out there, and him and One on One, which if you don't listen to the One-on-One podcast, One-on-One, I keep saying it. I don't want it to come out one-on-one with a J. If you don't listen to the One-on-One podcast, you should. He has, I just got the first volume of his comic book in that he actually does with Paranoid American. And I know this is a little off topic, but it's The Chosen One, Juan, and it's The Chosen One versus the Saturnian Cube. And I know some of you out there might listen to Mark Steves. My family thinks I'm crazy. He's in this comic with Juan, and Paranoid American set it all up and helps him pull the comic off. I know volume 2 is out with Sam Tripoli in it and a homunculus stuff. Juan is obsessed with homunculus, which I'm probably going to have him on to talk about it with you guys. I mean, so many crazy ideas and philosophies with this that I want him to come on and tell you. And also, when I ordered this, Juan put a whole bunch of rad stickers from his podcast in there, some Paranoid American stickers, which they have. Paranoid American's so clever with his merch, and it looks like the old school Unsolved Mysteries. And then also I wanted to shout out, he put in the Occultist Monday, which is an issue that you can go get. It's a little zine that Juan does that you can go get. And it just has a whole bunch of interesting information inside, from homunculus to things about Aristotle, things about bibliomancy, possessed states, adrenochrome unveiled part 1. It's just like a little zine that he's doing to try to get the truth out there. And I love this idea of using what we consider old-fashioned media to spread the news, because this internet, they're deleting from us every day. So these kind of hard copy things, maybe this is already my philosophy of the book, that these kind of hard copy things, we know they can't change them in front of us. We know they can't change it right in our hands. They can't Berenstein us if it's in our hand. Or can they? Or can they? So, yeah, maybe some books are definitely worth keeping. And one of the books I will be keeping is my Juan on Juan comic book. So anyways, Paranoid American, he says that the reason the CAPTCHAs actually exist is because the computer is computer generating some of those images, and it wants to see if you're fooled enough by them to believe it's real. So it's trying to create, now when the computer says pick all the palm trees, the computer wants to see if you notice that 2 of the palm trees you're picking are actually created by it, or if one of the images is too far off that you would never pick it as a palm tree. So part of the AI art that's coming out now, the reason that the computer is getting so good at it is because you're teaching it how to do those things. Now, this being said, let's take the philosophy bigger in more of a human vibration way. And if you don't follow human vibration or check out Realize Radio, you totally should. I actually give her a lot of the credit from being Gifts Unlock Gifts. Her gift of, she taught my eyeballs how to see in another way than they knew how to see before. And so I always give her a shout out for this. But she believes so many things we see online are computer generated images. And so what if in the same way, some of these celebrities are computer generated images at their core? Like, let's take a Britney Spears. And could she be such CGI now that the computer wants to see what it can pull off? And that's why we see her in the same shirt every day and with the same background every day, because the computer has this thing down. Or if that's too big of a concept of computer generated images of one person, could one of every 10 TikTok people you're watching actually be all CGI? Could they be all avatar? Could they be all computer art with a computer idea or a computer philosophy? Could some of your algorithm actually be a message directly to you by a fake entity that you needed to see? Could everything about the message be contoured down to the voice, down to the color of their eyeballs? Like that, like we know there's localized advertising and that there's personalized advertising, and that you click on things and you're like, oh my God, I was just talking about this with my mom, and now here it is on my Facebook. We know they're doing this. What ideas could they implant if they know our algorithms that well? They know the actual face that we would accept certain information from because we find it motherly or loving or friendly or smart. This is a crazy concept I was thinking about this week. I would love to know what you guys think. You can hit me up in some of the places that I already told you. You can also write me at projectchaney@gmail.com. And I am a slow go with answering my emails. I used to be so crazy anal with my email box, but now it's a mess in there. A faster way to correspond with me is obviously Instagram, and even faster than that might be Telegram. Let me know. Keep me posted. Let's see if there's anything else on here before I let you go. Those are 2 chores that have nothing to do with you guys. And okay, here's where I'm going to leave it with. This will be my last weird thought of this visit. So, we all know that with or without the wacky vacky, the COVID of it all, the coronavirus, the 19, the Omicron, the Delta, it was fucking up people's smell and their taste. Some people that I know, they haven't got their smell and taste back right, and it's been over a year. If your sense of smell and taste is messed up. Now we talk about how beautiful and what a freaking miracle our eyeballs are. How great are the ears to hear it. We never talk about our taste. We never talk about our smell. So, we also know that there's proof that birth control can change your body in such a way that the pheromones that you're normally attracted to, you're not attracted to the same pheromones when you're on birth control. That a lot of ladies out there will be with their partner for a certain amount of time on their birth control, get out their birth control pill, and then be like, oh, I can't stand my partner. Because it's a pheromonal change for them. Could coronavirus messing with our smell and taste also mess with the receptors that we're completely unaware of that are smelling each other's pheromones? Our thing that makes us attracted to someone, that makes us want to breed with someone, that makes us turned on by someone? I am so curious out there. If you're a person that has had corona and lost your sense of smell and taste, have you noticed your sense of attraction to different people? Are you attracted to different things now? Are you less attractive to anything now? Is there any repercussion of losing your sense of smell and taste? And this is kind of a little nasty. I don't care. I really want to know right in this moment. I didn't think of it till just this moment, though. If you've lost your sense of smell and taste, does kissing your partner taste different? Does sucking their dick taste different? Does eating pussy taste different? I can't believe I've never thought about this shit until just this second. I'm so glad you guys were here with me for this epiphany. So if any of you have had corona or lost your sense of smell and taste, please hit me up. I have to know. I have to know. My Maria does this thing where at the end of her episodes, she tells everyone that listens to drop a little emoji somewhere. And that lets them know that they made it to the end of the episode. I don't want to do the exact same thing. I just don't want to steal her thing. But I do like that thing. And I don't know. You guys make up one. If you made it all the way till here and you can be really clever with your meme and it has something to do, an inside joke with this episode, please post it somewhere. And I love when you reach out to me. I love all your words. I love all your thoughts. I love all your ideas. My Telegram chat room is not that big. My Telegram channel is not that big, but it is just filled with some really smart, deep, amazing people. And yeah, I am going to do some live soon for Project Chaney. So do go over to the YouTube channel and make sure you're hitting the subscribe there. I think that's it, you guys. I think I've said it all. I'm sure the second I hit stop, there will be 10 more things I think about to tell you, but I will just have to start a fresh sheet of paper with fresh ideas for next time. Thank you for hanging out, you guys. I hope you have a beautiful blood moon eclipse in Scorpio. The energy's real. Okay. Bye-bye.
So she has been Chaney, and now she's off to smoke a blunt. See you next Tuesday, you fucking cunts.